Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. This was my exam week, so I was off of social media, but I'm back now and I want to share with you how I discipline my kids in public, or my toddlers in public. If you don't know, my name is Marla and I am a mom of 3. My oldest is 4.5 and my youngest is 1.5. So I have pretty good experience and I've learned a lot of things over the years with all my different, ages of my kids. Some have worked and some have not, so I'm here to share with you the tips that have worked. Now I do want to say I am not the perfect mom and these tips definitely don't work all the time. There are moments when nothing seems to work and my kids still just have tantrums and all that in the store, but for the most part these do help. And I hope you guys can take them and incorporate them into your own life and with your own kids. So the first tip and the most important tip in my opinion is learning to ignore and not care what the people around you are thinking. So if your kid is having a tantrum in the middle of the mall, or he's knocking stuff off the shelf in the grocery store, you are going to get a lot of dirty looks. You're going to get people maybe even telling you off, people rolling their eyes. But all you have to do, and I know it's easier said than done and it takes time, but you have to pretend that they're not there and just think to yourself, most of the people, if they are parents, have had these moments with their kids, and if they're grumpy and don't understand you, it's because that they are not a parent or they're just being really rude. So ignore them. All that matters in that moment when you're trying to discipline is you and your child. So from there, once you just learn and kind of realize that it's not them that is important, it's that you and your child, then it gets a lot easier to actually discipline. I used to get really frustrated when I'd be in the mall and people are staring at me because I feel like I can't discipline my child properly because I'm worried about what other people are going to think and what they're saying, etc. So it definitely helps to ignore people. So what I like to do is I like to look at the situation. So your child is usually going to be pulling tantrums and they're going to be more acting bratty because they are either tired or they didn't get what they wanted, or they're just going to be whiny, maybe fighting with their sibling, and more of a nuisance. So depending on scale, I look at it as a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad are they being? I would say on my personal scale, it would be, screaming or crying loud in the middle of the mall and pulling a tantrum. That'd probably be my worst, my number 10. So on that scale, you place how bad they're being, and that is how you're going to choose what type of discipline you're going to use. So for example, if we are in a grocery store and my older son, John, who's 4.5, keeps asking for stuff, I wouldn't necessarily say that's being bad. I would say that's more being annoying. So a lot of times he will go in the store and he'll be like, I want that, I want that. And he'll try to take chocolate off the shelf, or he'll touch glass bottles because he wants it but doesn't realize that if he drops it, they're going to break everywhere, which he has done before. So for me, that's not being really bad. That's more just being somewhere in the middle, more of annoying, not listening to me. So what I do in a situation like that is I'll take him aside and I'll look at him, be very calm but very firm, and I'll tell him, listen, I've asked you 100 times not to touch these, these things, not to ask for things. You are going to listen to me, and if you can't do that, then I'm going to pick you up and we are going to go to the van. Usually when I go shopping, either my husband's waiting in the car with the other kids or I'm alone with one of the kids or 2 of the kids. So I'll either put him back in the van with my husband or tell him that I will, or I'll take him back myself. Usually all I have to do is threaten him with the thought that he has to leave the store, and I'll say, you won't get to come back shopping with mommy ever again. And that's usually enough for him, because being 4.5, he is able to understand that he'll never get to come to the store again, and he doesn't like that. So usually for my son, that's enough for him to be like, okay, I'm going to listen. If that doesn't work and he touches one more thing, I will follow through. It's annoying to have to leave your buggy or your car aside, but I do it. And all you have to do, I'm telling you, you do this once or twice and you'll never have to do it again. And I'll put my buggy on the side, but I always tell somebody who works in the store that I will be back, so please don't empty the buggy. And I'll take him to the car. Usually if you put him in the car, he'll start crying and he'll realize, no, I don't want to be in the car. And then he'll be like, okay, I'll calm down, and you can go back into the store with him, with your child, and everything will be fine. So that's kind of what I do. So then if I find that my child, for instance, is crying in the middle of the store, usually my older son doesn't cry anymore, but it's my younger ones, like my 2.5 and 1.5. If I find that they're just like really whiny, they're cranky, they're fighting with each other, it's usually not because they're trying to anger me. It's usually because there's a few things. They didn't nap, they're hungry, or they're bored. So in that case, I don't think that they need actual discipline as they need a distraction. So in that case, they're not going to be at a number 10 on the scale. They're going to be more at a 3 if they're, you know, really whiny or just, you know, fighting with each other. So if they're at the lower end of the scale, it means they need less discipline and more intervention. So I'll go down a cracker aisle and open up a box of crackers, take the box so I can pay for the box but give them the bag inside. Or I'll give them, like, some grocery stores have free fruit and vegetables for kids in a basket, I'll give them one of those. If that doesn't do the trick, if they're still whiny or still bored, I'll tell them something like, if you guys can sit still for 5 more minutes, we'll go down the toy aisle in the store or the summer aisle and get some chalk for the way home, or get bubbles, or, you know, something like that, depending where you are, of course, which store. That's usually enough for my kids to be like, okay, sweet. Now, if it's a baby, that's obviously they're not going to understand you, but then if they're crying, it's either because they're tired, hungry, or have a dirty diaper, so that's different. Now, for when we're shopping, for example, and my son keeps running away from us and doesn't listen, or doesn't listen for anything, whether it's running into stores, whether it's touching clothes, or you know, anything like that, that's when actual discipline will have to come into action. So for my son personally, he is good, easy to reason with if you're calm. As soon as you snap and lose it, that's when he is just not going to listen. So this is something I have to work on, but I always have to make sure that I'm calm when I'm trying to discipline. So if he's running away from us and I say, John, please come here, I need you to stay with us, there's too many people, and he doesn't listen, or he's sitting on the ground crying because he wants to go into a store that I said no to, then I will take him and I remove him. If I actually discipline, I will remove him from where there are people. So I'll take him into the bathroom stall, I'll take him into a corner of the store where no one else is, we'll hide behind a clothes rack, anything where he knows that no one else can see him, because I don't want him to feel shamed as I discipline him, because that, I think, in my opinion, makes it a lot worse. So I want him to realize that it's a serious situation, that I respect him, and I'm not trying to shame him in front of everybody, but that he does need to listen to me, and it really helps by removing him. So if my husband is with the other kids, I'll leave my husband for a minute and I'll hide John behind a rack and I'll talk to him. Or if we're in the mall, I'll sit down on a bench and kind of get my husband to block from people's view, something like that. So you just have to get creative, but get them away from people or people's eyes, and then discipline. So what I do with my son personally, if he's not listening, running away from us, is I'll say this: we are all going to be here as a family, and we're going to sit down and walk together and eat together and do everything together. And if you can't do that, then you get to go, again, I always say, to the car. Or you can tell him, if you have an event that night, say you're going to a birthday party, then you can say, or you won't get to go to that birthday party, or you won't get to have that popsicle that I promised you after dinner. So you have to have some type of bribing or something to work with. But before you get to the part where you are disciplining and telling them he can't do something, or this is going to happen, I always stop, and the very first thing I do is try to talk reason with him and understand why he's not listening. So for example, the one time my son was running away from us, and he kept running away, and I literally was losing him in the crowd, and I was getting frustrated but scared as well. So I called him here and I took him behind a clothes rack in the mall, and I said, listen, I need to talk to you. And I was like, just look at me in my eyes. And I sat and I said to him, why are you running away? Why won't you stay with mom and dad? And he said, because I want to go see that store over there. And I said, oh, okay, well, you should have told me, and then we'll go a little bit quicker and take you to that store. And he goes, but I want to go now. And I said, okay, well, listen, we have 2 more stores on the way to that store that I want to stop at. And if you run ahead of us, I can't find you, and I might lose you in the mall. You might not be able to find us, and it might take a while. You might be scared, or someone can grab you. And I know a lot of people don't like to scare their kids and make them think that other people could do something like that. I personally am the opposite, and I do like to educate my kids to a certain extent without terrifying them, that not every single person in the world is good and pure, and that there's a very good possibility that somebody could grab them, because I want him to be prepared and be very cautious. So I do tell him, somebody could take you away from mommy, and I just don't want that to happen. So if you want to go to that store, we'll go, I promise, but you have to hold on to the buggy and wait till we get there. That usually is enough for him, and he'll say, okay, I'll do that, if we promise him to go to that store, or, you know, get that ice cream cone or whatever that he wanted. Now, if that doesn't work, then I get to the disciplining and say, well, I don't care if you don't want to do this, you're gonna do it, or you'll go to the car, or you won't get to go to the birthday party, or you won't get that ice cream cone. So I hope this makes sense and I'm not confusing you. But for me, I found that the biggest thing was ignoring about what other people think, because they'll stare at you and be like, oh my gosh, she's yelling at her kid in the mall, or she just hit him on the hand or something, you know, like people are really rude. So I ignore people. I pretend it's just me and my son. I'll remove him from the situation if he actually needs actual disciplining and not just intervention with a snack or a distraction. And I try to talk calmly. And I know it's hard because, at least for me personally, when I'm in the mall with a bunch of kids and it's busy and I'm exhausted and I'm carrying a bunch of bags and diaper bags and buggies and my kid's not listening, I snap, and I'm so tired that I don't want to sit, there's a fly, sorry. I don't want to be reasonable. I just want to snap and just get him to listen. But that usually makes them more frustrated and it makes your whole situation worse. And I have learned this time and time again. So now what I do is I'll quietly and calmly just take a deep breath, discipline him calmly, and when he sees that you're being calm but firm, they usually will listen. So definitely give it a try, and it has worked so well for us. And now we'll go to a store and we rarely have any problems or tantrums. If they're getting like trying to jump out of the buggy, they don't want to sit still, it's not because they're being bad, it's usually because they're so tired of sitting down in the buggy, or they're bored, which is easy to understand because as a kid they just want to play. So in that case, we'll go to the dollar store if we're in a mall and we'll each get them a toy to play with, or we'll stop shopping for a minute and we'll do something fun in the mall, maybe you know, go to a fun store for them, or we'll get them a snack to distract them. But if they are truly being bad, truly disobeying our orders and not listening, that's when I remove them from the situation, firmly but calmly discipline them, and then bring them back. If all of this doesn't work, they have to learn, and we stop our whole shopping trip, whether I like it or not. And I usually hate it, but we'll stop our shopping trip, go to the car and go home, and they'll get disciplined at home. So I'll either give everybody else something that they like, or they'll spend time in their room, or they'll be in a timeout or something. So those are my tips. Usually we never have to leave the store because if you're calm but firm, then they usually will listen. And I always do try to reason with them, and I do try to make them, I do understand, like when I take my son to the store, he does get bored. So I'll say to him, okay, sweetie, I know you're bored. Hang on a little longer for mommy. You have been being really good, so thank you for that. And I will try to get you a treat as we leave because I do appreciate you, you know, shopping with mommy and letting me get my stuff done. Because again, they're kids, they have a very short attention span, and if my kids sit still for even half hour, I'm so grateful because again, they're kids. So try to put on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad are they actually being? 10 where they're disobeying you and being really bratty, and a 1 would be they're just, you know, being kids, getting antsy. So I hope these tips help. They work really well for me, and forget what people think. People will stare at you, so just ignore people. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.